Hello and welcome to Moveface Designs. In this video I'm going to be showing you how I do my thread painting. If you looked at my other video with the cherries on, you would be able to see how I took that off of the parchment paper and attached it to the backing fabric and then sorted out my wadding. And there was all different types. This one just happens to be a mattress protector. Okay, so I've got it all sorted out, it's all pinned, and I've chosen all my colours, or most of my colours. And so I was just looking at it, just working out exactly how I'm going to thread paint it. What I've chosen to do is to do the cone here in lots of little circles, because naturally that's what it looks like, and also this bit here, which I think is called the wattle. So they're just going to be a series of small circles. This other red bit here is going to be just lines that way following the shape and that way as well. I've got one colour red that I'm going to use. I could swap out and change my thread all the time, but I've decided I'm just going to keep it in one red to make it a lot simpler for me. Now, if you're going to do it properly, what you usually do is you have the same colour in the bobbin as you do as your top thread. I have to say I'm being a bit of a cheat, and I've got a grey in it which is similar to this backing. I've already done a few stitches just to check to see that you cannot see my bobbin thread. If you've got a machine where you can just very slightly see your bobbin thread, it's always best to have it the same colour. My Brother V5, which is an embroidery stroke sewing machine, loves these moon threads, and so it generally sews really lovely with them. Okay, so let's get started. I always wear gloves. I know it looks a bit odd, but it just gives a bit of extra grip for me to be able to move my collage underneath. I do know that some people have also used a slider sheet. Mine slides quite well, so I don't actually need one. And I guess if you're starting out, you know, try without first of all and see how you get on. You might find that you won't need one either. So there's not too much to it really. You just need to drop your feed dogs on your sewing machine. Mine just does it via the computerized screen there, but if you've got an older type, generally there is a switch that you can just push at the back of your machine that will do that. So you drop your feed dogs, and basically instead of sewing in straight lines, you are going to be responsible for the shape that you're going to make. Okay, I've got a different foot on it as well, and this foot just hovers. There are some that hop as well, they're quite nice. I've got one on my other machine that does that, but it makes an awful lot of noise, so I prefer to use this one. Okay then, so let's just get going. I tend to use a foot pedal instead of my on and off switch, purely because I think it just helps me to control things a little bit easier. If you've got an on-off switch and you would find that easy, then, you know, by all means you do it that way. Okay, so just a few circles. I'm not very good at this, so we'll just see how we get on. Oops, not very well. I'm just making round and round in circles. I'll probably go back the other way as well. It's not too fast. Some people find that they can control it better if they do it faster. I've just got it now at a set speed, and you can just kind of relax a little bit. If you have your shoulders too tight, you'll end up with a sore neck. Sorry, I need to concentrate there. Yeah, you'll end up with a sore neck, and you probably won't get the machine to go where you want to. So, and the thing is, it's always a worry, I think, because if you've done a really nice collage, you would be really worried about doing the thread painting on it because you think it might spoil it. I would say 9 times out of 10, thread painting always makes it look nicer, even if your thread painting's not that good. I'm just doing lots of little circles, probably not complete circles. I've seen some beautiful thread painting or quilting. Some people are so clever at it. I'm still kind of learning as well, so I thought perhaps we could just learn together. So just slow and steady. And the thing is, I can stop, I can reposition my quilt, I can take a breather, I can have a look and see what I've done, and then just continue again. So don't be afraid to stop and readjust. These aren't really circles, but it'll just give the bit of texture that I want on it. I've seen some beautiful ruler work as well with free motion. I haven't tried that, but it's definitely something on my bucket list to try. Can you imagine if I had to try and swap colours as well? I'd be here for absolute ever. I think sometimes as well, if you've got the same colour going over all of it, I personally quite like that. Some people like it where their fabric, where their thread disappears into their collage and you don't really notice it. So some people use clear thread. I actually like it to enhance it a little bit. I'm not really sure you can see that so clearly. If I bring it up even closer, you might be able to see a bit better. So that's all I'm going to do with that piece. I'm going to move on and do this bit down here now. So the same movements, and actually when you look closely, it's not really circles at all. But it's given it texture, so that's the main thing. Okay, so here we go. I'm not sure whether I'm going to, or how I'm going to do the background yet. So we'll just crack on with the actual cockerel, and then I will have a little think about how I'm going to do that. Now I'm not going to sit and show you thread painting of the whole bird. I think you'd probably get fed up with that. So I will do a bit more of this piece here and maybe do a couple of feathers. And then what I will do is I will speed my video up and then come back to you at the end. Okay. Yeah, it's not perfect. It's not perfect by any means, but I think sometimes it's a little bit difficult to gauge exactly what it's going to look like until you've finished. And it might well be that I decide I don't like it, so you can always unpick it. It's quite difficult, especially if you haven't kept your needle constant, and then you end up with some really tiny little stitches, so they're quite difficult to get undone. But if you keep your momentum at the same, your stitches will be a very similar size, and if you do make mistakes, you can always unpick it. I know it's a bit of a fiddle, but you know, we all make mistakes, and you might actually find that once you've completely thread painted it, they don't notice, or you perhaps will notice them but someone else wouldn't. And we're all very clever at saying things like, oh, I wish I'd done it this way, or I wish I did it that way. And we're always good when people say, oh, that's fantastic, and we then say, yes, but I made a mistake here, and we point it out. Don't point it out. People won't notice. And let's face it, if they do, usually they're too polite to say that they've seen it. Okay, so I'm just going to go up and down now. Keep forgetting to put that down. And just follow that shape there for the moment, because that's kind of how it is. Just gently swinging it round. As I say, some people do it a whole lot quicker than that and they actually find it easier. I don't. I end up going all places where I know I shouldn't be going, so I'm fairly steady when I do this. Sometimes to the point where I yawn and it's taking too long, but there we go. So I think that's what I'm going to call a day for that red at the moment. Yeah, and you can see there. So we started to build up a little bit of texture. And like I say, at the moment, until I've done a bit more, I can't really tell whether that's okay. I think it is. They're not the nice, cute little round circles or pebbles, as I think they're called, that you get, that I was hoping. But still, I think that looks fine. Right, so the next piece, I'll just change this colour. What I would say is I've got lots of these. I've got about 400 different colours, but you can guarantee that my whole quilt will never have the exact colour that I need on every single colour that I've got, or every single piece of fabric that I've got in it. So I wouldn't worry too much. As long as it's as close as it can be to it, I don't think it makes too much of a difference to the finished outcome. So there's two browns here, and I can't remember which one I decided to go with. That one is a little bit brighter than that, and I think this one is the one that is the closest to the colour. But I'm going to use the slightly brighter one, which might be a little bit controversial, because I think it might stand out a little bit better. Okay. Gloves back on. Now, although this hasn't actually got much of a help as to what it is, I'm going to try, if I can, to do little zigzags along here to try and get that so it looks a bit like feathers. So we'll just see how we go with that. The other thing is as well, if you like going forwards when you're doing things, you can always do your towards you as you normally would do a sew, and then as long as you make sure you stop with your needle down and it's down, then you can turn your quilt the other way and then have it coming towards you again. You don't actually have to go sideways, backwards, forwards. It is better if you do, and it is better if you learn to do that. But when you're very first starting off, if you are a little bit worried about going backwards, forwards, sideways and what have you, then you can always stop with your needle down and then turn your quilt and carry on, so that you are sewing in the normal way that you would. And when you very first start, your lines won't be straight. So if you're trying to do a straight line and they're not straight, don't worry about it. That is all part of the learning curve. Okay, so let's see how we go with this. Oh, why is it not? There we go. I'm just going to do some little tiny lines backwards and forwards. Oh, you can see now what I mean about the thread not being the right colour or the same colour. It just means that you can see the stitching just a little bit more. As I go down, I'm just following the shape of my pattern of that piece. And what I would say, don't be worried if you go off of one piece onto the next one with one of your colours. So this one here is a slightly darker brown than I need here. But if you go onto it a little bit, that's quite nice actually, because what happens is when you look at it, it starts to blend the colours a little bit better. So actually I think that thread painting is quite forgiving when you're doing it, because it all blends in. And you know, if you're doing an animal, Colours don't just stop and start, it all, you know, blends into each other. Okay, so I'm just going to do something very similar on this other brown piece here. See how we get on with that. So as I was saying, I can stop there, and if I don't want to go backwards, I don't mind going backwards, but you can always just turn it round like that and carry on this way. And then if you get to the top again, you can stop, flick it round again. And there's nothing stopping you doing that all the way around your collage if you want to. If that's what you find easier, and if that's how you think you're going to get your best results, then do it. You can just take hints and tips from lots of different people that you see. And let's face it, we're all going to make mistakes. That's how you learn. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. I've made plenty of them, and I'm still making plenty of them. But it's all part of growing. And there's some lovely groups on Facebook, and they're all very encouraging and very helpful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to carry on with this, but I'm just going to do it on time lapse, so you know you're not sitting there for hours watching me do it, and then I'll come back to you when I've finished towards the end. Welcome back. So here we go. Here is the cockerel all finished and thread painted. I decided I wasn't going to change this piece at the top and his wattle. I think I'm perfectly happy with that now. Whilst I was about it, I did the background quilting as well. What I did was just a basic grid pattern, and the reason I did that was because I didn't have quite enough fabric, and so I had to join a piece on, and you can't tell now because it's hidden underneath the quilting lines that way. I didn't mention when the quilt was under the needle that if you are having this as a quilt and you're using it, or indeed if you're using it for anything, the best thing to do is every time you change your colour is to make sure you've got long ends on each of them. Make sure that they go through to the back of the quilt and tie them off. This is actually going on to my canvas, so I didn't feel the need to do that. All I did when I had the needle in, after I'd changed the colour, was up and down once, and then once I'd finished my colour, up and down once again. And then for me, I'm happy with that. That will suffice to go on the canvas. If I flip it over, you can see there's my grid, and you can see that all my thread is grey, so I didn't change the bobbin at all. So there we go. The next video coming along would be how to attach it to the canvas, or at least how I attach it to the canvas. It's been fun spending time with you. In the meantime, take care of yourself, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.